Hello. Welcome to Talking Pictures. We're a podcast where we love talking about movies, TV, and a load of other good stuff that Hollywood releases. Only the good stuff that we like to talk about. My name's Brian. I'll be your host for today. I'm joined by my friend and good co-host, David. David, what's the crack?
Not much, Brian. How are you today?
David, we're doing something a little bit different today we haven't done before in anticipating for a movie we're going to review next week.
Yeah. So this is your warning now for next week to get ahead of yourself that we're going to talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny next week. So we thought we'd look at the 4 movies leading up to this just in a bit of a retrospective way rather than reviewing it and going through details. Just maybe stuff that we liked about it, stuff that we didn't like about it, but just talk about it.
All 4 movies. We're not going to go too heavily into the detail of all of them. We're not committing to the time with that. Mm-hmm. What are your favourite 4 Indiana Jones movies ranked, David?
Oh, ranked. Oh, Jesus, Brian. Last Crusade, number 1. I've always had a little bit of a soft spot for Temple of Doom because I think that was the one that I saw most often when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I know objectively Raiders of the Lost Ark is better. So I'd say Last Crusade, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Kingdom of Crystal Skulls.
Okay. With the Temple of Doom and Raiders being quite close.
Yeah, they could interchange. I could watch them and go, actually, do you know what? I like Temple of Doom better. They could be
fair enough. Yeah. 110,000% The Last Crusade is the best one. Mm-hmm. I don't expect the Dial of Destiny to change that.
No, I think the Dial of Destiny could come along and it could nestle itself quite safely. I hope it does, safely within that rank. I hope it doesn't come in dead last, where it's like, oh, why did you make this? I hope we enjoy it, but I don't see it being the best one.
It doesn't need to be the best, it just needs to be good. Mm-hmm. We'll go into The Last Crusade when it's due chronologically. Mm-hmm. My second favourite, as of right now, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And, well, I'll get into it later, but so in terms of my rewatching these movies, because I only rewatched them recently. They're very fresh in my head now, in anticipation. I didn't do that for Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't do that for Creed movies, but I did it for the Indiana Jones. I think I'll put Temple of Doom third, and then King of Crystal Skull fourth.
Quite similar list then, yeah.
But here's the thing, David. I remember when I first watched Temple of Doom, didn't really like it. Mm-hmm. I watched it recently. It didn't overtake Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I do recall Raiders not being too terribly high either. When I say The Last Crusade is my favourite, it skyrockets. Mm-hmm. It's far beyond
above and beyond, yeah.
So David, let's go into the first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, before it was ever called Indiana Jones, I believe. Is that right? In
a similar way to Star Wars, that it's not, Star Wars A New Hope, it's just Star Wars.
Yeah.
That the first Indiana Jones movie is just called Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
And then afterwards it donned that title of Indiana Jones.
So, Indiana Jones is history professor, was he?
He's an archaeologist.
He's
a professor and a lecturer and on the side adventure treasure hunter.
Yeah. He's a mixture of Lara Croft, which is probably inspired.
Lara Croft and Uncharted, yeah, both inspired by kind of Indiana Jones and that treasure hunting, adventure, puzzle solving kind of.
Yeah, definitely delivered National Treasure later on.
Yeah, definitely.
Alright, David, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones is trying to find the Ark of the Covenant, and he picks up a couple of allies along the way, and he's trying to beat the Nazis to them in the race.
Those Doshgar Nazis.
Those fucking Nazi bastardos.
It's kind of iconic, this movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it is iconic, especially the Cairo setting.
Yeah.
Introducing a lot of interesting characters that later play into more entertaining roles later, like Salah and Marcus, especially Marion. And this movie is quite iconic for a lot of things, with how the villains melted to death, and how the fly goes into the villain's mouth without him breaking
the boulder scene.
Oh yeah. The boulder scene.
The sword fight.
The sword fight, the lack thereof sword fight. I didn't really pay attention when I was watching it because bit of a generic action scene, but stunt wise, choreography wise, blocking wise, the chase from the bike onto the trucks to the front of the truck to the back of the truck, where he's, what did that ultimately achieve anyway? I forget. But anyway, this movie's quite good, and you know, when I watched it recently, I remember thinking, I was probably a bit too immature to when I first watched it. Maybe I didn't appreciate it. It's kind of boring, and then when the fun scenes come, the fun scenes. But you know, I did find this movie to quite engaging. After they're crossing the threshold where he leaves to go meet Marion in the bar. I thought to myself, I'm going to be going on my phone playing a bit of chess and wait for the next interesting scene. No, I actually glued my eyes to the screen. I paid attention to it quite a lot, and then the dirty Nazis come in and you're introduced to more tension, and then allies build. Yeah, I'm staying with you. I paid attention to this movie a whole lot more than I thought I would, and I found it surprisingly interesting. I like the, for a villain that, like, you don't like a villain. You like to like a villain in movies,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't...
You love to hate them.
Yeah. And I don't like a villain when he just steals the rewards after our hero puts in the hard work. But he didn't want Marion thrown in the snake pit when Indy was stuck in there. He didn't like that at all. And he wasn't actually. He wasn't there. He was French. And he was just an archaeologist, just like Indy. It's a really good movie. What do you think, David?
I think it's great for how fleshed out he is as a character already. He comes into the movie fully formed. Indy. Like, he comes in and, like, the whole first sequence.
In the jungle.
In the jungle. I love the fact that...
With Dr. Octopus.
With Alfred Molina, yeah. I love that the first 3 movies, they all kind of start with this adventure that he's on that has nothing to do with the actual plot. Like, he's on like a mini adventure to begin with, and you're kind of seeing him. It's like, oh, Indy, he's existed before this, and he's going to exist after this, and we're just coming in, we're just dropped in, and it's like that he is kind of, there's always something going on in his life, and we're just dropped in kind of at not the midpoint, but just the end of this adventure.
Yeah.
We're just seeing that, and we're going to see a little reprieve, and then we're going to go into the next adventure.
And it always adds a bit of humour in that as well. Like, the end of that, after all that hard work avoiding spikes, running through spiders, running away from a boulder, and he's faced by the indigenous people of the Amazon, and he's ended up being chased by all these people, and he escapes in the plane, and there's a snake. Oh, that's just my pet snake. And he's afraid of snakes.
Yeah.
I love that there's always a tease or a moment, a dedicated scene in each Indy movie of his fear of snakes.
Yeah, and I think that it's great that they introduced that as well so early on, because there's the whole going through the jungle, and like he's like silhouetted, and you don't see him to begin with. He's
very
like
mysterious,
and
almost like, oh, I don't know about this.
Yeah, you're not sure. Like, is he good? Is he? But then, like, as he's going through the temple to get to the treasure, and there's a load of spiders on his back. He's cool as a cucumber. He is like, whatever, spiders, brushes them off. Couldn't care less. Couldn't care about the spikes. Big boulders coming. Yeah, obviously you're going to run away from that. But he is cool. If you look up cool in the dictionary, there's a picture of Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones.
Especially from Temple of Doom.
He gets into the plane, sitting there, all of a sudden, Snake comes along. He is the biggest baby in the world. He cannot deal with it. He's like, get this thing away from me. And that introduces him as like, he is a fully fledged character. He has existed before this movie. He is going to exist after it. Here he is, cool as anything, and he's also got fears, and he is flawed, and he is more than just that one. He's more than just here,
I get what you're saying, David.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's so much clouded clutter of movies these days, and this person's just a perfect,
Yeah.
I don't feel like acknowledging too much that, Indy's fears of snakes. Indy has a fear of snakes. That he's flawed. He's got all these thoughts and emotions. He doesn't believe in all the magic and supernatural element. He's a very grounded believer. But
in spite of everything you've seen.
But you see, the thing is, that should be a given in every good movie. And that's why they're good.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't. I shouldn't have to tell people why an indie movie is good. You should watch it and you should just understand and take it as it is. Yes, this. Oh, blah. Yeah, of course, this is great. You know, no shit. But with all these movies with, you know, adventure or action or even sci-fi, a character can just they can fall out of a plane and hold on to a bunch of cargo, or they can jump through a window. They can do things that you and I shouldn't even think about doing. Whereas Indy always, the things Indy does and the things he does it, and he gets away with the skin of his teeth.
Yeah.
But it's still very believable until a certain point in the franchise. But we'll get to that. But all this stuff that we love about Indy and these movies, it's a given. And wash your hands with it and move on. Like I'm trying to say is that we shouldn't have to completely acknowledge why this movie is good. It's like it's what should be expected.
Yeah, it's kind of, you don't come away from it thinking like, oh, I wish they had done this to his character. It's like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas understand the character and are able to portray that to us, the audience, that we understand the character.
Yes,
you know, and there's no miscommunication.
We can definitely relate to it. If he gets shot, it's like, oh shit. Whereas someone else gets shot, it's like, yeah, I'm grand, walk it off. You know, things like that.
Like Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible. Like, what's he afraid of? Has he got any fears?
I think he's a fear of failing, but the thing is, Ethan failing means a bomb's gonna go off.
Yeah,
that's what it is to me. For Ethan, and I
and other adventurers and stuff like Nathan Drake in Uncharted. Is he? I've never played Uncharted. Is he kind of multi-dimensional? Is he? Like, has he got his own flaws and his own fears?
Yes. The games, I'm trying to come up with some examples and I just can't right now.
No.
But I do know that he's a thief.
Yeah.
And he can be a bit selfish, but he grows as a person over time.
Okay, that's good, yeah.
But it was a fear, I'm trying to take off the top of my head, no. Especially in the fourth game. The fourth game's Jesus, David. Just play the first one, play the fourth one.
Okay.
That's all. That's the bulk of what you'll need to know. It's great. Don't watch the movie.
That's okay.
I'm not going to recommend the movie. But just to finalise on that waffle I was trying to explain, it's like compared to singer-songwriters back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, whereas a lot of times nowadays, am I right in saying that a lot of musicians have their songs written for them and they sing them?
Yeah.
They sing them, whereas a lot back in the day, the number of people who were singers would write their own songs. That's what I'm trying to compare to a given of a great crafted movie with a great character and a great story. It should be a given. It should be expected.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
if that comparison allows.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, 100%. How did you feel about the Marion?
Marion, oh, I love her. She's great. She's a bit I don't know. She's a bit too young. At least when they're said they've gotten together, but I thought she was a great character.
That's kind of a staple in those kind of, you know, older movies of an older man and a much younger.
Yeah,
I think there was one movie I can't think of the name of it, but there's it might be Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones, and there's like maybe 25 years in the difference between them. Like it's kind of not expected, but it's commonplace that you would have two actors of a different age.
I did like that in the opening scene. She's like pretending to be drunk and taking the shots, and she's like holding her own. She's a hard taker, and she runs this pub in like where in the middle of where in this frozen mountain land somewhere in Asia
or something.
Yeah. And she's great. Yes, she is a bit of a damsel in distress that needs a bit of rescuing, but there's other times where
she can hold her own.
Yeah, she can hold her own. And I liked her. And I could say it's no harm not having her in the rest of the franchise up until the fourth, but she's one of the better female protagonists. She's probably the best female protagonist.
Yeah. I think that the if I remember correctly,
Now, bear in mind, she's not like as iconic as Indy or a few other characters. She's a good female protagonist. I don't think she's iconic though. Maybe because she's not just been given much to do, aside from being part of Indy's crew.
If I remember correctly, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas wanted a different love interest every movie to kind of show that Indy was a little bit of a player, and they wanted him to actually kind of sleep with some students. I think there's a scene very early in the movie where Marcus maybe comes to his house and he's in the dressing gown, and there was a scene shot where he had slept with one of the students, and she was cut from the movie. So they wanted him to have a little bit of a James Bond kind of esque of like, flirting with women and getting his end away and all.
Yeah.
But they scrapped that for just the central love interest each movie, and I think that works better.
It does work better. Not that there's really anything wrong with, like, he's just a player. Like,
he's a good looking guy.
If you're gonna bang on, no, you shouldn't do that, it's not allowed, it's wrong, there's ethics and all that. Look at James Bond, dude. Look at all the James Bonds. So that's interesting. I'm not all for a different love interest -- female protagonist in each consecutive movie. Like, let's say in comparison to the Mission Impossible franchise, I don't like that for a while there was always a different female lead. Like, in the first one, she's different from the second one. The one in the third one made a reappearance in the fourth and sixth.
Was she in 4 as well?
Yeah, she's like a solid cameo.
I know that one. Yeah.
And in the fourth one,
there's not really one in the fourth one, is there?
but she was part of his crew, and she was the female character lead.
Yeah.
But she's never been seen again. I want her to come back because she was cool. And then the one in the fifth one has stayed. Thank
Rebecca
God.
Ferguson, isn't it?
Yeah. And look at this. She stayed in the sixth one. She's in the seventh one. Look at the seventh one. There's like an equal amount of female actresses in this, equivalent to the male actors now. Hayley Atwell, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, Paul Clementif. I'm probably missing someone else, but that's awesome.
Yeah, that is really good.
But they didn't make each female love interest the same.
In Indiana Jones. Yeah, you're right. Very much so, because we have Marion, who can kind of hold her own. I felt like Kate Capshaw's character in Temple of Doom, Willie, is very much a damsel in distress.
Yeah.
She feels like she is constantly shouting for Indy. She needs help. And then in the third one, Elsa, I believe her name is.
That's it.
She is the low interest, but also then a Nazi.
She's a villain.
She's the villain. But she's part of the villain's crew, and you don't see that twist coming, definitely. But that's very much and then obviously Marion comes back for the fourth one. So it is very much 3 different love interests, and 3 different characters in every way.
And
when it could have been easy to just write them all the same.
Yeah.
Just change the actress, do you know?
Well, and I like that. Well, I suppose we can wrap the Raiders of the Lost Ark. But any other final thoughts? The villains, the conclusion.
I think it's very funny, and I don't know if you noticed this. If you take Indiana Jones out of Raiders of the Lost Ark, it happens the same anyway.
I saw that episode of The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, okay. I just heard of it. I didn't see The Big Bang Theory.
They made an acknowledgement out of it, and it pissed one of the characters off. And should that be considered bad?
I don't think it is. I think you could make the argument that.
But then, if you don't acknowledge that, why should we not let that pass happen for other movies these days?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sure there's loads of other stuff where if you take the protagonist out,
or a secondary protagonist,
it's gonna turn out,
or even a villain. I don't know. So, fair enough. But I think. Because Raiders is 40 years in the living?
It is from 1981, so 42 years.
Yeah, so because of that and all the iconicness of it and the franchise, it's, I think maybe a lot of people don't care or don't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to acknowledge some things in other movies that should be considered bad. Because if a movie you enjoy, you enjoy. Now
it doesn't take away from the enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't at all.
Yeah.
It's still an Indiana Jones adventure.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Exactly, yeah.
Now we'll roll into Temple of Doom. Chronologically, this takes place a year before Raiders.
Yeah, so Raiders is 36 and then Temple of Doom is 35.
And
we'll go into that a little bit later in our next installment of Flash Facts, I believe.
yeah, some more flash facts. So Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. Yeah, I watched this recently. And quite interesting to make it thematically darker, even in colours. Yeah. But this is a movie, in my opinion, that is filled with such great scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the movie or the plot is all that great. It's I mean, a bare minimum good. But there's a lot of scenes great.
Mm-hmm.
The plane sequence.
Yeah.
The fireplace scene. The dinner scene with all the
monkey brains,
with all the exposition done.
They used to freak me out as a kid. Oh.
And then the scene where they're in their rooms and Indy is flirting with Willie and vice versa, and you think, oh, they're trying to get ready for each other because they're gonna see each other in 5 minutes. But then at least Indy's being someone's there to kill them and he's trying to fight them off.
Yeah.
And then the scene where
down
below into the caves, and then we are going to die.
Yeah. And it's iconic
and
the Kalima, the actual ritualistic sacrifices.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good scenes. At least in my opinion, the first half. The movie feels like the Temple of Doom is like 2 acts, because once they leave the ruins, go down to the Temple of Doom, essentially it's like, okay, we're there for the rest of the movie. This is like Act 2 and Act 3 in the making, or at least, well, yeah. And I don't know, who was the villain in this? What was his name?
The villain in this one was the kind of ritualistic sacrificing guys, but I believe his name was Mola Ram.
Forgettable.
Yeah.
His
look is not. I think he's memorable. You know him. If I said the villain of Temple Doom, you know him, the bald guy, red paint on his head, but you wouldn't know his name. No. That's fair enough.
Like, who is he to Indy? He's no one to Indy.
No. This is very much, Indy has stumbled into this adventure.
Yeah.
Everything else, he's had the call to action and he's gone out of his way.
And he's got an intrigued interest. He didn't want to get involved in this, but you just felt bad for the people who are suffering for it. Yeah, David, I think if you love this movie a whole lot more than me, I'll let you take the reins, but like, I'll acknowledge there's a lot of scenes in this that are quite good, even the relationship between Indy and Short Round.
Mm-hmm. I think that Short Round is a great introduction.
And for a kid character who people would think would be annoying, he's definitely not. And you know what, just before that, Willie, I don't think she was annoying. I actually thought she was very funny in it. I really liked Willie in this movie.
She is, like we said, she is very much a damsel in distress, and she, along with Indy and Short Round, they've just been kind of thrown into this adventure. For Indy and Short Round, that's a normal day. We go on adventures, that's what we do. Willie is an American singer in China. She's just doing shows. Yeah. She works for the initial, not the villain, but the mini adventure to start, Lao She. She works for him. I think she may be going out with him or something like that. So when she is thrust into this adventure, she hates it. She does not want to be there at all. She is constantly screaming. She is a lady of, I suppose, a finer way of living. She's a bit, entitled. And so when she has to...
But she can get down. Like, she's, like, when it's just Indy and her, like, yeah, let's go. Like, but they're arguing, fighting with each other. Yeah, I've had better, or... they come down, but they're attracted to each other, and they're both getting ready equally in their own rooms, waiting for each other. And after Indy has been, he killed the guy who was trying to kill him. Indy barges into the room because he thinks someone's there to kill her, and she's been waiting for you. And then he's like rushing in frustratingly. He's like, "Oh, please be gentle." It's like, that scene is funny. Like, they know how to sprinkle all this humor around. It's full of great scenes. It's
good. There's that attraction there, and they both are attracted to each other, but there just seems to be something that keeps getting in the way of, like, Indy will just say something, he'll like maybe insult her, and she's like, well, you know what, F you anyway, I didn't like you, all this. I think that it has great scenes. Like for a kid.
I agree.
I think that it's very, very scary. I think that the
Disturbing.
the disturbing scenes, like it doesn't even come like not even looking at those, like the dinner scene of them, like, oh, they finally sat down, she thinks she's in the laps of luxury, this Indian prince or whatever.
Even Short Round is starving.
Yeah, and I'll get on to Short Round in a minute. He's great, but the scene of like when I just remember when like they pulled off the monkey's head and their monkey brains. Like, I remember my mom like used to be like, oh yeah, what's for dessert? And it's like, you know, monkey brains. Like, she would try scare us and all. It was great, and that has lasted with me. Do you know that scene of just taking the monkey's head off and there's his brains and all the guys are just eating all the rotten stuff.
It feels like that Indy is very he's oblivious or ignorant to the scene. He's very much more focused in taking the expedition off the tree rocks or whatever, whatever.
But I think that's the whole, like, Indy is... I feel like Indy is well used to it. This isn't his first dinner like this.
Yeah.
He is enraptured in the story and wants to get as much information as possible. But even so, even if he wasn't talking, these things wouldn't bother him. I think he would be eating them and be like telling them, like, stop, like, you're going to insult them.
Yeah.
Do you know, because he's very worldly, he's very respectful of other cultures as well.
But he's sitting next to a guy who cuts open the belly of a snake, starts eating the baby snakes. Do people do that?
Not that I'm aware of. Maybe. I mean, it's possible. Don't forget, this is also in 1935.
And when, you know, Willie, God bless her, she's just starving, wants a bit of soup. Do you have any soup?
Eyeball soup. Oh, I forgot about the eyeball soup.
Even Short Round, he's getting a spoon up. This child's starving. He's getting a spoon up. He's looking forward to it, and then here it comes. I pop up the eyeballs. There's just the look on his face. It's like, oh.
You feel so bad.
Yeah, you feel bad for the both of them. I can relate to that. They're starving. They just want some normal food. And I like that Indy later brings her some fruit and, you know, some
actual food,
normal food, so to say.
Yeah,
fruit,
for her.
Fruit and other stuff.
Yeah,
that was nice. Like he paid attention to that scene that they didn't get to eat.
He may have been talking to one guy, but he knows what's going on. He kind of nearly is like, he's in a way aware of everything that's going on in the room because he's been in rooms where the danger.
Yeah,
and he's maybe that's why then later when he's so only focused on her, that's when the assassin kind of sneaks up and can get the upper hand on him.
Yeah,
that's why he didn't check it. But Short Round, the introduction of Ki Hoi Kwan.
Yeah,
like you said, risky move. Introducing a child character is always risky. They can come across as so annoying. He is fantastic. Next to Indiana Jones, he's my favourite character in the whole series.
Really?
He's great. I just love his little one-liners. He's brilliant. He's, you know, like, holy smokes, Dr. Jones, and like, hold on to your potatoes, and stuff like that is brilliant. Or, you know, the scene when they're playing cards, he's like, you cheat really big, and then they're both cheating. Like, there's a great, like, father-son dynamic between them.
Yeah, but it's not, like, the love can be a father-son, but it's, well, I'd like to think it's more mentor. And like he, I don't expect. I would never expect. He'll always call him Dr. Jones. He'll more so be like an uncle to him.
Yeah, maybe you're right there.
More than an uncle.
Yeah,
but definitely the father-son relationship is there.
Maybe Short Round sees it that way, but Indy sees it as a mentor. Oh yeah, this is my apprentice. I'm helping this kid.
Yeah,
do you know? But he still does have that. Maybe you're right, uncle nephew kind of, or surrogate uncle.
Yeah,
is great. And I think that maybe what punctuates that for me is the real life element of seeing Ki Hoi Kwan and Harrison Ford, seeing them at the Oscars, seeing them at the
Dial of Destiny premiere.
Yeah, just like there is a great admiration for each other, and I think that's brilliant. I think that makes their relationship in this movie, you know, nearly 40 years later, still, like, that makes the movie better for me, is that these guys, they had great on-screen chemistry, and then off-screen, 40 years later, they have such admiration for each other. I think it's great. It's really heartwarming for me. Anytime to see them together is brilliant. I really hope that he is in at least one scene of Dial of Destiny. I know that's a long shot. I really do know.
Yeah.
I hope he's in something.
I think we should tell ourselves he's not. And take the realistic knowledge that Harrison Ford and Ki Hoi Kwan have have had their reunion
Yeah.
at the Oscars and the premiere, and leave it at that. With the 1% chance that there is a cameo post-credit, even if it's a post-credit scene, because like just something simple as that would be nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, this movie, like I said, filled with great scenes, but the plot, I couldn't care less. It's very less interesting. I didn't like the dark themes. It's a prequel,
Yeah.
but it's definitely not served as the next Indiana Jones sequel to the Raiders of the Lost Ark. The Last Crusade is. Before we get into that,
Yeah, it's very interesting. Well, just before you go on, is that like these movies are like Indy is an archaeologist, and he is like, you know, facts and artifacts and this stuff, and he is thrown into these very mystical adventures.
Yeah.
And the first one is obviously a religious one, and then this one is kind of like anti-religious, like dark sacrifice and like sacrificing people to this. I don't even know. They're just like sacrificing.
See the plot. And I don't understand why they didn't want to. They made it prequel only to so they wouldn't have Nazis in. Just, I don't see why that is not in tandem. I don't see why you couldn't just make the next one a year or two later and just not include Nazis in the story.
I think maybe they were overthinking it because I never saw it as a prequel. I just assumed that it was the next Indiana Jones adventure, and there's nothing that makes you think otherwise, because I know in the first one there's the title card that comes up 1936, but there's no title card. I don't think so anyway. There's no title card to say that it's 1935. It's just kind of nearly after.
Oh no, it is.
There is?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't remember, but
there is.
Yeah, like other than you noticing that.
Funny enough as well that the way the movie opens up, he's not in a jungle, or he's not in like a somewhere in the rural area of the depths of the dark.
He's in the club.
He's in a club in China, in Shanghai, and he's wearing like a James Bond-esque suit.
Yeah, he's in
James Bond-esque villains.
What's the name of that nightclub?
I don't know the name of that nightclub.
The name of that nightclub is Club Obi-Wan.
No way.
Which is a homage to, obviously, Obi-Wan Kenobi, because George Lucas directed.
In real life?
Huh? No, in the movie. It's called Club Obi-Wan. Yeah.
David, before we move on to The Last Crusade,
yeah,
have we got any flashbacks?
We've got flashbacks, our new segment that everyone have been raving about. We've got some flashbacks, except instead of about the movie Flash, we're going to do them about Indiana Jones. But we're going to keep calling it the flashbacks. Okay?
Yeah, I know, yeah. Just so that to spell out to you, the listeners, that's our new segment, flashbacks.
Yeah, flashbacks. So I've got one flashback about each of the Indy movies. Rather than doing all of them about one movie, I'm going to do one fact about each movie. So
blow my socks off.
I hope so. I hope you learn at least something. I hope you learn at least one thing here. I hope the audience gets to learn at least one thing here. So, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Famous scene in which Indy shoots a marauding and flamboyant swordsman was not in the original script. Harrison Ford was supposed to use the whip to get the sword out of the attacker's hands, but he and the rest of the crew got food poisoning. After several unsuccessful tries, Ford suggested, "Why don't I just shoot the sucker?" to Steven Spielberg. He immediately took him up on the idea, and the scene was successfully filmed. And I think that improvisation and that change to the script is a much better scene than if he had, sword fought him. Just to have this guy come out and he has this whole 20-second scene of him swinging the sword around, and then Indy's just like, yeah, whatever, shoots him.
Yeah, I knew that fact.
You knew that one?
I knew that
Damn.
one.
Okay, well, hopefully someone that's listening learned that fact.
But that is a tier up there in the iconicness of the many things of this movie.
Okay. Fact number 2.
For Temple of Doom.
You already knew. You know this one because you already said it. Not wishing to feature the Nazis as the villains again, executive producer and storywriter George Lucas decided to regard this film as a prequel. So, we kind of discussed it there already, but they just didn't want to film Nazis. I don't know why, considering that 2 of the original trilogy are Nazis, the first and the third, but I think they just wanted to step away from that.
Yeah, it's interesting that he doesn't always fight Nazis. He fights some Russian Soviets. He fights some more Nazis, except in the 60s. This being the Dial of Destiny.
Yeah. Well, we haven't seen that one yet. So we'll see.
Well,
is it the 60s or 70s?
60s, isn't it? It's implied they're Nazis. Or at least post-Nazis.
Yeah, because it looks as though there's flashbacks to younger Indy and when he fought Nazis, so maybe it's they've continued on afterwards.
Yeah, I think not in Indy's main villains. It's sort of implied the army is always Nazis, but it's always a villain opposite Indy in who he is. It can maybe an archaeologist, but it's a villainous one, or it may be an archaeologist, or fueled with greed.
Yeah, it's someone that's aligned themselves with the Nazis.
Yes,
You know.
and yeah, funny enough, that it's always a villain that gets their downfall because their ego lets them.
That's the thing, is that in almost all of them,
Pretty much all of them.
in all of them, Indiana Jones does not actually kill or defeat the central antagonist. The only time it happened was in the second one. He had the sword fight with the bad guy in Temple of Doom. In Temple of Doom he had the sword fight, but in every film they're either killed or reach their demise by the artifact themselves or their own greed or ego.
Yeah.
Because the first one, the Ark of the Covenant,
Killed them.
killed them all. Second one, he was reaching for the stones
It fell.
and fell into crocodile infested waters. The third one, he chose poorly and chose the wrong grail
Oh,
and had he aged 100 years in 10 seconds.
that's the best death.
And then in the fourth one, Vanko is her name, is it? She gets her wish and she wants to know everything, and it's too much, and she's destroyed by the
Knowledge.
The knowledge, yeah. But
it's going to be disturbing what happens to Mads Mikkelsen.
but actually, now that you say it, that Donovan's death was your favourite. Fact number 3: Donovan's death sequence by rapid aging was the first all digital composite. They shot the scene several times with different makeup transformations and morphed the elements together digitally. By doing this, the film was for the first time scanned digitally, manipulated, and output back onto film, rather than arranging the film elements with an optical printer. It took a week to film his death scene. It was the first time that this was done where a shot was completely digitally done and then put back onto film. So it was the first time that ever happened, and it took a week to film that whole scene. And you're right, it is the best death scene.
A week just for that literally one shot.
Yeah, because they had to shoot it in so many different the stages of makeup.
Yeah.
And then when they took all the film, put it into the computer, and they were able to put it all together that way.
And it looks real.
It does. It looks like it was...
Real.
Yeah.
It looks real. Mm-hmm. There's nothing digital about it.
Did you know that one?
No, I didn't.
Great, because you've learned one thing. And then flash fact number 4 about Indiana Jones.
I'll be curious to know this one.
This one is about the Kingdom of the Crescent Skulls. So, Harrison Ford convinced David Cope, the writer, to include more jokes about Indy's age in the script, believing that it would help reduce the, quote, American paranoia about aging. He also refused to dye his hair for the role. He said, "My ambition in action is to have the audience look straight in my face and not at the back of a stuntman's head. I hope to continue that no matter how old I get." And I think that makes the movie better for it. I think that one of the best parts, one of the things I'm most excited for about Dial of Destiny is knowing that he is a much older man and that Indy is continuing being an adventurer and doing the things that he loves. That he's not held back by the fact that he's older. And, I mean, when Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls came out, that was 2008, I believe. So he was already saying, like, yeah, no, I'm getting older now. And this is 15 years on from that again. So it's even older.
Would you like to know a flash fact from me, David?
I would, yeah. I thought you said you didn't have any.
Do you know that Sean Connery, who played Indy's dad, was 56 when starting the movie?
In The Last Crusade?
Yeah.
I would have thought he was older.
Sean Connery was 56, Harrison Ford is 44.
What?
Oh yeah.
They were only 12 years in the difference.
Pretty
They
much.
seem like completely different ages. They seem like they're a generation apart.
So, think about this, David. Sean Connery in that movie, 56 in real life. Harrison Ford is how old in Dial of Destiny?
Probably 80 something.
So that is 56 to 66 to 70. He's 25 years older.
Wow.
Did you know that?
I didn't. No. So we both. I knew that he was going to obviously be older than Sean Connery now, but I didn't realise they were that close in age when they filmed that movie.
Oh yeah, I know.
Well, now that we're talking about that movie, should we move on to The Last Crusade?
I've got another little something.
No!
I've got another little flashback.
Go ahead, yeah. Go.
One more flashback, folks. I don't know if you know this, David, but do you remember that German who fought Disney and got repelled by that plane? He was bald. He had a mustache.
Yes.
When he stepped out, he was looking for a fight. You know, like, a challenge.
This is in Raiders, isn't it?
This is in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
I think that's the same actor who Indy fought in Temple of Doom with the beard and he had a whip. He was whipping children. He had the thing over his head and he got crushed by that thing. Mm-hmm. That's the same actor. Indy was supposed to fight him again in the third movie, Last Crusade, during the urn, the big balloon plane.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that scene was cut. But you do see him walking from Indy's perspective onto the plane.
Mm-hmm. So that would have been good to have a little Easter egg of Indy fights this guy every single time.
I wonder how. But yeah, obviously, I wonder how if he's hardly gonna fight someone in this movie, like a big guy, because there's a big actor in this movie in Dial of Destiny. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. This concludes this segment of flashbacks.
Thank you so much. I hope that you learned something. We learned something each.
We did,
which is good. I like that both we can learn something and the audience can learn something. We should find a little jingle for flashbacks.
We'll move on to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. David, this is my favorite one.
Yeah, same. I think that I don't know why, but I think that it is.
It has heart.
Yeah, I think it's just the best crafted out of all of them,
and it's so fun. Mm-hmm. First of all, let's look at how it opens up. In my opinion, who you're led to believe was Indy, I'd like to think is Marion's father, Abner Ravenwood.
Okay.
It's not stated in the script, but I'd like to think it is. Because, this guy, sees young Indiana Jones, he's able to get away from him and, take the artifact. And he's like, you got heart, kid. Gives him the hat, and I'd like to think he's the guy who teaches Indiana Jones. He's essentially the character who has not been casted in the role of Abner Ravenwood, Marion's father, because he's mentioned a few times, or at least in the first movie, and
because he was the mentor,
yeah. But he's apparently he died in an avalanche. Okay, potential there for a prequel project for Disney years down the line.
Anyway, they had a TV show, Young Adventures of Indiana Jones.
But was Abner Ravenwood in that?
I don't know. I never saw it.
I never saw it either. But I don't think I had.
It's on Disney Plus.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Anywho, this opening, it's a young Indiana Jones and shows him how he got a scar on his chin because hours before got a scar in real life. Shows his fear of snakes and how he got it. And we're introduced to his father, kinda.
Not initially. He's.
You hear him and you see his hands and he's doing his work on the grill. And I like that the relationship his father has. He's trying to teach Indy to know as many cultural information of the world, such as count to 10 or in Greek. He's teaching him all this. He's essentially like homeschooling him, informing him with as many information and knowledge as he can about the world instead of taking him to a baseball game. Do you know what I mean? And this movie pretty much introduced him again after his adventure. He's in his room teaching, and Marcus steps in, and it's the same beat, and then he's introduced to the expedition dump except this time it's a villain, not revealed yet, but Donovan. And he's like the type of guy that Indy gets the artifacts for to give to him in his museums. Am I mistaken? He's not an archaeologist, so to say, but he's
a collector, I think.
Yes. Yeah. So he's like, I like that little bit of a tie. He's sort of similar to Indy. And he already got his father involved in looking for the Holy Grail. Yeah. I think that's my favourite artifact.
Same. Yeah, I think that it's the one that most people can connect with.
And it's more involved, I
Yeah.
think. And at least that's, that's engaging. And, Marcus Brody tells him to book 2 plane tickets.
He's coming. He's not missing this one. Yeah.
And who'd have thought that this throwaway actor or character from the first movie becomes such a fan favourite?
Yeah, definitely.
And then Indy he meets up with his father and where was it? In Munich, Berlin, in the castle.
Yeah.
He sneaks in and find his father. And
See, that's kind of the call to action is his father, because
Yeah.
Donovan shows him obviously the tablet.
Yeah.
And Indy's like, "Wow, this is amazing," and he's really intrigued, and he's like, but he kind of pulls back, and he's like, "No, like this. If you want to find this, you're talking to the wrong Jones. You need to talk to my dad." And he's like, "We already did. He's missing."
Yeah.
And that's his kind of. He already was intrigued, but this is his call to action.
And I love that they go straight to his house. His house is completely trashed. Someone was searching for.
Yeah.
And like Marcus is like his friend, but Marcus is also Indy's dad's friend.
Yeah.
And like, yep, I'm coming with you. And like he's there for the bulk of it. And
he's great.
Yeah.
He's so funny.
Marcus, yeah, definitely. But when we first see Sean Connery on screen, he thought Indy was a Nazi. Breaks a vase over his head. He's Junior. I look at he calls him Junior.
That's great, yeah.
And because you learn that's his first name.
We only ever knew him as Indy.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that his name was Henry Jones
Henry
Jr.
Jones.
It's quite funny, isn't it? It's like, it's knocking him down a peg, because he's this great adventurer, but then to have someone come on and say, "Junior, what are you doing here?" Do you know? And he's like,
it's sort of belittling him a bit.
Yeah.
It's like this. You're led to believe this guy. He's Indiana Jones. He's so cool. He's awesome. But as soon as a father comes in, Junior, stand up straight. Put on your tie.
Yeah, and that leads then to obviously the emotional climax of the film at the end, when Indy's reaching for the Grail.
Yeah.
And Sean Connery's reaching down, and he's like, "Come on, Junior," and he's like, "Indiana," and that's what that pulls him away from, because it seems like the Grail is kind of nearly like the One Ring in Lord of the Rings. Like everyone that sees, like, oh, I can just, they want it desperately.
Yeah.
And even Indy, who is like gonna fall to his death, he still wants it as well. And he just has that moment where he's like, "Indiana," and he snaps out of it, and he's like, "Oh, my dad is finally calling me by the name I want to be called, and he's respecting me. He's like an equal now, and he sees me as an equal." That's brilliant. I think that's
and the fact that his father is able to let go of the Grail.
Yeah,
it's something he's been looking for his whole life. It's like, yeah, I can let go of this.
I think that's he it obviously saved him, and
he's
seen it, and
because he was shot, and Indy went through the final trials and tribulations to find the Grail to save his father. That was quite disturbing. What happened to Elsa, though? I thought, like
she fell
and she died. That's very unexpected and not traditional for a Hollywood movie to do. You think, oh no, he pulls her up, saves her. No, her greed befalls. But
yeah, I mean, it's
when do you see that these days, David? You don't see that too much.
You can redeem a villain. I think a lot of the times Hollywood tries to redeem villains or make them anti-heroes. But I think that maybe, quite possibly, it's more difficult to redeem a Nazi. Those are kind of maybe in Hollywood's eyes, the German Nazis in the 1930s and 1940s are unredeemable, air quotes. They are the bad guys.
Yes, but she did turn good, so to speak, by giving Donovan the bad Grail. I like the way, I'm not an archaeologist, I don't know what it would look like. Like, thank you, doctor. What a buffoon. Drank up and died way too quickly. I said it before, say it again. Favourite death scene. Quite good as well. And Elsa, she killed the villain. And she was like trying to help Indy find it, but she does her greed, she wants it out as well. I don't think you were allowed to take the Grail with you.
You weren't allowed to take it past the seal, which was that they brought it over the seal, and that's why the whole temple collapsed.
But can you still leave with it?
No.
If
you take it past the seal.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to.
You had to stay there.
Yeah.
They were able to take it and save his dad, but it couldn't go past the seal. And I think that was the thing as well, is that if they had taken it past the seal, its effects, like, because it was supposed to grant kind of eternal life.
Yeah.
So you know, would have saved his dad, and then would his dad have lived forever, and by consequence then Indy lived forever. So I think they needed to have that moment where it's, you know, to explain why Indiana Jones lives forever.
Well, yeah. Well, if it was me, I would have just, you know, on my mark, get set, and just run straight out. I'm sure. Unless that whole destruction is going to follow you out that Jordan structure. That's a wonder of the world, if I'm not mistaken, is it?
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah. Look how much we're talking about the MacGuffin of this movie is the best.
Yeah.
Back on his father. Back to the vase when he smashes over.
Oh yeah, sorry.
He said, "Oh, thank God, not that Indy's okay. It's a fake."
Oh yeah, that he's
and here's something. He had a tango with Elsa.
Yeah,
he talks in her sleep. She's a Nazi.
And you know she talks in her sleep. Well, you know, she's good looking. That's that you can tell. Like, oh yeah, Indy is his son.
Yeah.
You know, he's a bit of a player himself.
But
he's James Bond.
Yeah,
he is James Bond.
Exactly. And I'm telling you now, every scene Sean Connery in, it's great because he's a fish out of water. This doesn't happen to him. He's a very proper, by the books
archaeologist. Yeah.
He's because like he in the scene where you think my idiot son is stupid enough to bring my book all the way back here.
And it's there in his pocket, yeah.
And then the tie to before the tie to the chair, and the book's not with him. It's with Marcus Brody. You think you're gonna find Marcus? He speaks this amount of number of languages. He's got connections all over everywhere. With a bit of luck, he's already found the Grail right now. Jump cut here. Does anyone here speak English? Oh, sorry, I'm terribly lost.
It's probably one of the funniest cuts in the movie. It's brilliant. It's a great piece of storytelling.
That gets me laughing every time. It just adds to the humor Marcus has, and I love him. He's a character that can make you laugh, but don't disrespect him. And there's a bit of his essence, his presence continued in the Dial of Destiny, with the female protagonist being his daughter. Yeah. So I like that little continuation.
There's some other great moments with Connery's character of like that you can tell like he's not made for this action world.
Yeah.
There's the scene where they're in the plane and he's shooting. He's got the gun in the back and he accidentally shoots the plane himself. He shoots the back propeller. And he turns around and he goes, "I'm sorry, son, we've been shot." He doesn't tell him, I accidentally did it. Yeah. It's great. It's this great little character dialogue. And the scene in the tank where he like hits someone with the pen and he like turns back to Marcus and he's like, "Oh, Marcus, the pen is mightier than the sword." Like he's having fun with it. Yeah. Even though he's in a dire situation.
That in that moment where you think Marcus has gotten out, but Henry Jones Sr. is fighting the Nazis, and you just see Marcus there with some metal piece, and he just bashes him on the head. Like these old men.
Yeah.
There's no young man here fit for the fight, and that's Indiana Jones. He's like 44. These older men, they're not
non-traditional heroes.
Yeah, they're fully built. They're not fully built. Salah's back in this movie as well. Hello, Mr. Brody. Hello. What does he call him? Indy Senior, Mr. Senior, Jones Senior. I love Salah so much, and
he's back as well.
He's back in this in Dial of Destiny as well. He's the only He's out of that foursome. He's the only actor aside from Harrison Ford still alive. Even the scenes where they're tied to the chair and he's like, "Oh, get the lighter out of my pocket." He drops the lighter, burns the room down.
Yeah,
and
he is a bumbling father. He's not made for this world, is he?
And the scene where they go into the hot air balloon plane.
Yeah, you know, Hindenburg.
Yeah, so they're about to get away, escape. Okay, who cares about the real? Let's just go home. So I think that's what they were trying to do. I like that Indy spots the Nazis are still trying to find him. So Indy goes to dress up as a waiter to try to blend in to take him out. Doesn't tell his father. His father's just sitting back reading the newspaper. I like the way he's just sitting there. He's in his own world. And then Sean Connery's reaction to the Nazi putting his walking stick down to the newspaper to see if it's him. It is him. But Sean Connery's reaction to it is like, "What's going on here? How dare you interrupt me?" It's like, and then they spell it out for us. this never. I'm not used to this happening to me. In Indiana Jones, it happens to me all the time. And I remember watching this scene for the first time. But the scene where Sean Connery gets the umbrella and there's no weapon, no bullet set in the gun, he goes to make all the
flop the birds,
flop the birds to make the plane crash. It's great. Yeah, Sean.
You can tell he's not smart in the way that Indy is of like knowing, oh, here are the Nazis coming and what to do, but he's smart in, like you were saying, like teaching Indy like all Latin and all this stuff, and like, oh well, I know, you know, if I scare the birds, that'll do something else. They're both incredibly intelligent, but in entirely different fields in different ways.
Yeah, so I think Sean Connery's character is my second favorite.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, no, definitely. I think for me it's Short Round, but Sean Connery definitely.
Yeah,
and I think that maybe that whole ensemble is what makes this movie probably our favorites as well. Is the story, the ensemble.
And just riding off into the sunset.
Yeah, for me, that's the perfect ending for an Indiana Jones movie. Is these characters literally going off into the sunset on horseback, that they'll continue, they'll have adventures to come that I'm not going to see, but just knowing Indy is out there working on something.
Yeah.
That's what's great for me. And I think that's it's exactly, he's going off into the sunset. He's literally, that's it, exactly. And then what we all thought was the end for Indiana Jones, he came back once more for Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls.
Yeah, so we'll move on to that. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. A lot of people don't like this movie.
No, and I can understand why.
Yeah, I can understand why. Maybe it's a bad or a not good Indiana Jones movie, but is it a bad movie?
That's a good question. Yeah, is it a bad movie? I don't know. I think that it's jarring for people, considering all of the previous ones have been very like religious or spiritual, to then go to aliens.
That didn't bother me at all.
Yeah,
it's alien sci-fi. That doesn't bother me. Mm-hmm. I think maybe they could have executed it better. You know, I did additional research, review listening, so to speak. Mm-hmm. This movie, I think this movie is one part of an unofficial list I have not made to explain why the mid-2000s to the end of the 2000s era of movie making is quite bad. Mm-hmm. I think if I have an era of movie making that of movies released that I don't like, it might be from maybe 2004 to 2010, maybe 11, that I think is not good. Yeah. With a select few that's, you know, made by auteur directors. Mm-hmm. Because looking at this movie, everything feels like it's on a set. There's no grittiness, there's no dirtiness, there's no sweat on the guys. All their uniform is very clean. Yeah, it's very perfect. You know,
it very much does feel like I'm watching a movie as opposed to I'm watching the adventures of Indiana Jones.
It feels like there's a lot of new technology and movie making devices, ranging from all departments to costume to set to effects, that they try to use this movie that maybe they shouldn't. And I thought it was interesting. The Soviet Russians, let them be the villains.
Yeah, that's kind of makes sense for the 50s, kind of the Cold War, and they moved on.
And it's similar to the Nazis, but they're not Nazis. Great. And I thought the villain, a woman, Kate Blanchett, with that bold haircut, I thought it's a bit iconic. I think it's more iconic than the Temple of Doom villain.
Yeah.
And you know, the MacGuffin, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Oh, okay, fair enough. It's an interesting ensemble. Sean Connery's his father and Marcus Brody have passed away.
Kind of replaced by Ray Winstone, who's kind of a flip-flopper. He's Indy's friend and ally, and then he's actually with the Soviets. Yeah. He kind of does play, okay, who is in the more strategic position here, I'll go with them. Yeah. He's very much flip-flopper.
I remember liking him, and then I remember liking him, but when I watched it recently, I thought, Indy, did you need to believe him that he said he's with the CIA, really? You need to forget about it. They just needed more of a correction in some rewrites. I did think the card was good, but maybe add a little bit more than his greed for money. I've no problem with Shia LaBeouf.
No, I thought he was a good introduction, and
Yeah.
the fact that he's Indy's son, is interesting. It's an interesting dynamic to bring in.
I think it's an interesting thing that before he learns he's his son, he says, "Yeah, kid, don't go do whatever you want. You dropped out of school, so what? So long as you love it." Realizes he's his son. First thing to say, why didn't you make him finish school? You know, like funny things like that. The snake scene.
Goes nearly straight. He nearly falls right into the position of his own father.
Yeah.
And him.
Yeah.
Which is great, and he needs to not be that, I suppose. The snake scene where he's stuck in the quicksand and he has to get the snake. He's like, I think it's great that they punctuate in every movie that this is a fear that he has, and because of the role he's in of an adventurer, and he's in these environments where snakes just happen to be constantly, and he's afraid of it.
And
he's never afraid of clowns. There's no clowns, no clowns in the jungle.
And oh Jesus. Wouldn't that be funny? Just make some home videos of Indiana Jones, and instead of snakes, just throw a clown in there. We should do something like that. Just we're hiking somewhere in the forest as archaeologists, and instead of a snake, here comes a clown. Just do it.
Grab his big shoe. I'm not touching that shoe.
Oh shit. Oh, we have to remember that.
Yeah. Look out for that bonus episode.
John Hurt was interesting enough. I thought he was funny at parts as a mentor to Marion or to Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf's mentor, yeah.
Yeah.
In the same way Marion's father was to Indy.
Yeah. You know, why couldn't they just bring back Abner Ravenwood? I think he'd be cool, but I don't know. Funny enough, you know, in the first movie it was snakes. The second one it was bugs and creepy crawlies. The third one it was rats. This one it's ants.
Yeah. I know that in the third movie, actually, this is a bonus fact, while I was doing my research for the facts, all those rats that they had in the third one, they actually bred those.
Yeah.
They all got, they actually, because if they just used regular rats, there would have been a lot of disease, and so they specifically bred all those rats for it. But yeah, in this one, it's ants, fire ants, that end up eating one of the Soviets alive. Like, it's very much a middle of the jungle kind of, you're only going to see these in the Peruvian jungle kind of fire ants that will eat you alive.
Yeah, sure, the monkeys were stupid, swinging on the vines in the jungle was stupid. Maybe the look of the alien was quite crappy, but it was interesting. Oh, geez, I don't think I have anything else to say about it. No. Like, it's a fine movie, and it's not the best ending. Like, yeah, great, he marries, lovely. He takes the hat off Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, you kind of were wondering, are they going to pass this now to...
Shia LaBeouf is not that type of actor.
Yeah, because as well as that, his name's Mutt.
Yeah.
And Marion reveals at some point in the movie, oh, he's Henry Jones III.
Yeah. So
he could easily take on the mantle of Indiana Jones. I
don't think people want Shia LaBeouf to do that.
No.
And I think Shia LaBeouf's not that type of actor. Shia LaBeouf is the... It's in his era of Transformers.
Yeah, you know? He could have been. He was very much, when this was made, Transformers 2007, this was 2008, so he was very much the Hollywood it kid.
Yeah.
He was kind of nearly poised to take on these franchises. And he did with Transformers, he did 3 of those, and he was poised to take on the Indiana Jones the franchise and move on with him. Now obviously it didn't, because maybe the reception with this one, they decided not to move forward.
Oh, well, Shia LaBeouf does have some issues. Like, he was never the right actor to play for this role. Like, I think Shia LaBeouf has a few issues. His issues sort of were displayed on set of this movie and in the release of this movie and the franchise of this IP. He was just the wrong actor to cast. Shia LaBeouf, he's a great actor. He's not a franchise actor anymore.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I would like to see him in a quick scene in Dial of Destiny. It's not going to happen. But
will we see Marion, do you think?
Yeah.
In a
quickie.
They're married and he goes home and he's off on an adventure.
I think it's going to be a quick one. They've hidden it very much in the marketing.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's in this movie. So yeah.
I think one thing we haven't actually mentioned about any of these movies.
Oh yeah.
Iconic score. John Williams' score is just, you know it when you hear it. It's that Indiana Jones theme. It's great. It's really empowering, and
it's one of his most fun ones.
Definitely.
Star Wars is operatic. Operatic in cosmic space epicness. Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park was it's like new life creation.
Yeah,
you know,
full of awe. It's like
wonder.
It's huge. Whereas majestic, yes. Whereas this is fun adventure. And like, you know, when you're hearing it over, you know, the shots of the map, the iconic like shots of the map where you're seeing the journey of how far they're going. It just fits so well. I think John Williams. This was a time back, you know, when these movies first came out in the 80s. You had Harrison Ford, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and John Williams. Like it's just a winning group of people. All that were just in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, you know, these days it only racks up in the twos in terms of the collaborations. Two or three people in the movie would. Where if you were to talk about Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan,
yes,
or Scorsese and DiCaprio and De Niro,
yeah,
we're about to get that in Killers of the Flower Moon. It's the first time he's directing those two actors together in a movie, which is great. So, you know, when you have those collection of collaborations, it's nice.
Yeah,
there's not too many of them these days, but it's good to know that you have them. I don't really have much else to say on Kingdom of Crystal Skull. We can close this episode by what we are looking forward to in Dial of Destiny. Will we have in the middle of the movie a creepy crawly insect type of animal that, you know, to what's the next rats, what's the next snakes, what's the next ants, what's the next bugs? Will we have Indy fight a gigantic villain? Will the villain, Mads Mikkelsen, have a defeat in his own downfall? Will we get Indy riding off into the sunset?
I hope so. If there's one thing I want, I don't want Indiana Jones to die. That would be...
I don't think he's gonna die.
No, and I think that I don't think Harrison Ford would let him.
No.
Because Harrison Ford is very vocally, like, he does not like Han Solo. He does not like playing that character, but he loves playing Indiana Jones.
It's funny, we've been on a trend of Harrison Ford in his career to reprise, like, some of his iconic roles. 30, 40 years later. It started with Star Wars. He continued it with Blade Runner, and now he's concluding it with Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
How great is that? How fantastic
is that? It's great, yeah. To go and if you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark and see him as like a 30-year-old man in his prime, and you can slowly watch him over these movies age to the state where he is now. He's 8 years old.
Yeah.
He's coming back for what seems to be the final hurrah for this character. It's really interesting to watch.
I think it's an interesting cast this movie's picked up. I remember, like, Harrison Ford, of course, and then what's her name?
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
And Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And then you've got these supporting... It's just the two of them, I believe. And then you have Mads Mikkelsen, the villain. I thought Boyd Holbrook was going to be a third ally, but he's actually a villain.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of wished he wasn't always playing a villain, but he's playing a villain these days in projects, which fair enough. He already worked with James Mangold in Logan, so... And then we have supporting actors. Toby Jones, he looks to be in the flashback scenes. And Antonio Banderas, he's playing a friend.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know
that. Did you not see him in the trailer? He goes, Indy! He's wearing like a sailor's hat. Do you not know Antonio Banderas?
Didn't notice that.
Yeah.
There you go. And that would have been a good surprise.
And of course, John Rhys Davies as Salah.
Yeah, back again.
Yeah. Oh, I think he's only going to be in like one or two scenes, but yeah.
I think he'll probably come in and try and maybe get Indy to come on an adventure, but he's like, I'm retired. I'm not doing that anymore.
I think he sets him on an adventure.
Right.
I think Salah sets Indy on an adventure. I think Antonio Banderas helps them out on a bit. Toby Jones is, I think, part of a separate thing.
It'd be a flashback.
Yeah, I think. Because I did see him and Harrison Ford on set when Harrison Ford is old looking.
Okay.
Mads Mikkelsen, I'm curious to see what type of villain
I love
he
Mads
is.
Mikkelsen.
He-
He's
he-
a great villain, isn't he?
He's played a Bond villain. Now he's playing an Indiana Jones villain. He's fitting right in.
He's played Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
Like he's great. He's great in other roles too. I think he's a great guy. I love him in Another Round. He's great in. Have you ever seen The Hunt? He's great in that as well.
I didn't see that, but I know it.
That's good. But he's just he fits into that villain role. Like you could put him in any era and he could be a villain.
It's crazy now that Harrison Ford as Indy is older than the villain now in this. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny, and I think Mads Mikkelsen's in the flashback as well.
It looks as though he's in a flashback, and I've seen him in another scene. So I'm wondering, is there something going on with him that he's like
they know
not
each
aging?
other.
Yeah,
Not aging. I don't know if he's not Asian. That's interesting, but I do know that they've met before, and I like that. There's that tea. I think it looks like because he punches him in the trailer, and it feels like he's a scientist. I think
Yeah,
he's a scientist.
I
Like
know
he
what
has that similar look to the villain in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Thank God he's not related to him, because that guy is just disgusting. This guy, I look at Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah, you look like a good foe. And there's a scene, like, fasten your seatbelts, there might be some turbulence. That's such a classic Indiana Jones villain type of thing to say. Hopefully this movie's good and we like it.
yeah,
And that's all I want. I just want Dial of Destiny to be good.
yeah.
Make it in a tier list to good or bad. Make it a good one. If it's third good, but underneath Raiders and Crusade, I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I think so. I just want, like you said, I just want a good film. I want to enjoy myself,
And just nail the ending.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah, definitely. I think that that was a good wrap up. I think that we're both obviously excited to see this one. We're going to review that next week.
Yeah.
So make sure that if you haven't seen it, that you prepare yourself to see it and then listen to our next episode. And we wanted to introduce another segment into the show.
Recommendations.
Yeah, just something that we've both either seen. It doesn't have to be in the last week or something, but just something that we've seen that we think, if other people would like to see it. We're not going to talk about them in the episodes. We'll give them quick little wrap ups here. But have you any recommendations for the listeners?
I'd like to recommend Alicia Vikander's Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
To stick with the theme of treasure hunting, so to speak. This is a movie that I was hoping would get a sequel and a continuation. It's not going to get that. In fact, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is developing a Tomb Raider show for Amazon. Okay, let's give it another go. But this Tomb Raider with Alicia Vikander, it wasn't the best, and I think the rights just fell it through and went back to MGM, which Amazon own. So it's a good movie. Walton Goggins is, they could have done more. Walton Goggins was a good villain. They could have done more. They could have made it better. It is generic, but it's a fine watch. Don't expect a franchise out of it though. Just as a good movie.
Yeah, that's good.
What about
I've
you?
seen that before. Yeah. I actually quite enjoyed it. I'm gonna go different. I'm not gonna keep in line with the theme of the episode. But I watched a documentary last night that I actually really enjoyed. It's called Still, a Michael J. Fox
I know it.
movie. It was
I didn't see it.
No, it was only just released, I think, in the last couple of weeks on Apple TV. Apple Plus?
Yeah.
Apple TV Plus?
Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, make the titles as long as possible. Apple TV Plus. It's a documentary about Michael J. Fox and obviously his battle with Parkinson's that he's had since he was in, I think, one of the youngest people to be diagnosed with it. He got it in his late 20s, early 30s. But it was actually a really good documentary, and it is cleverly done in that it has interviews and it has dramatizations, and then also as he's narrating it, they'll use clips from his movies that would fit into
the scenes,
and it's great. So they'll have him, he's like, I was like the most popular guy at the party, and as he's describing that, there's a scene of him walking in I think it's maybe Teen Wolf, and he's coming in and everyone's patting him on the back, and it just is really cleverly done with all of the clips from movies, because he is, as he's describing himself in these situations, here are the clips of him in those situations in his 20s, and it fits really well.
Is there quite a lot of those clips?
Yeah, it's throughout the movie. I think it's done really, really well. It's the best I've ever seen it done, to be honest.
Okay.
And I think it was just a really good documentary, and I think that he is, although been diagnosed with this disease, that he has such a positive attitude still. He's very good, and like there's this one moment where he's talking and he's describing, because Parkinson's stops his brain making dopamine, so he takes dopamine pills to kind of stop it helps him with his actual movements and stuff like that. And he says like, oh, he just takes a pill, and he's waiting, and he said, yeah, no, I'm just waiting for the bus. And the interviewer's like, what do you mean waiting for the bus? And he goes, oh, it's just a term, like I'm waiting for it to hit, I'm waiting for it to activate. And it's like 2 minutes go by, and he goes, are you still waiting for the bus? And he goes, I'm on the bus, I've already paid, I'm ready to go. Like he's just very funny, and he has these one-liners. It's brilliant. But I'd recommend that still, a Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, that actually sounds really good.
I recommend it. I think that's what this segment is for, recommendations. But I had a great time chatting these. You want to wrap it up for us there, Brian?
I want to wrap this up. Thank you to our listeners in listening to this episode of Talking Pictures Podcast. If you'd like to follow us, please do on Instagram. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram at Talking Pictures Pod, please do. Our email is talkingpicturespodcast1@gmail.com. You have that email, all the links and information to tag us. Send us any questions. If you've got any queries, if you've got any fun facts yourself about the Indiana Jones franchise, send us in. If it's no harm to you, please do send us some likes, all 5 of them if you can, on Spotify. We have an episode released every week on Wednesday when you wake up.
First thing in the morning, when you're brushing your teeth, you listen to us.
Thanks, Ava.
Thanks, Brian.